Hair, black hair, abroad, on this IG Live here at Flourish the Foreign. Okay, hey everyone, I'm Christine. I'm the host and creator of Flourish in the Foreign, the podcast and platform that elevates, celebrates, and affirms the voices and stories of Black women living and thriving abroad while exploring living abroad as a pathway to wellness. Today, we're talking about hair, black hair abroad. And I think it's really important because it's actually a big concern for Black women, right? For all different types of hair, and particularly where you go abroad. Beauty and just the health of your hair is all part of wellness. You want to feel your best. And you want to make sure that you are in a location that can help you sustain the health of your whole being, let alone your hair and your beauty and all those types of things. So today we're talking about hair, and I'm going to tell you about not only some stories from past podcast guests about hair, like where they can get their hair done and things like that, and any other kind of funny stories. But also I'm going to share my hair journey, which actually coincides with my time abroad. And I kind of just made that, revelation just now. I have had locks for 5 years this month, which, yeah. And I'm going to get into why I decided to get my hair locked or go on this journey, what it has been like to be not only have natural hair as a Black woman abroad in Europe, but to have locks. And also hair care and all kind of my insights about that. And I do have lots of opinions for sure. And yeah, so that's what we're doing today. If you have any questions about hair care abroad, put them in the question box. If you have any questions about anything about living abroad, put them in the question box. And thank you so much for stopping by. Let me know where you are tuning in from. And if you are not currently abroad, tell me where you want to go and why. But let's kick it off. Let me get some of my water first. Okay, so let's start. I moved abroad in 2017 to Spain. And even before I moved abroad to Spain, I was natural. I had been natural since, I think 2010. So I had shaved my head. I had like a really short cut that was real cute. Then I was in law school at the time, and then it started growing, and I got this little puff. And then I've cut it several times. I had a faux hawk at one point. Yeah, legitimate shaved in faux hawk. And then for the years, I think it was maybe a year and a half, 2 years before I moved abroad, I was in protective styles the entire time. So I'd literally gone from not only a faux hawk, but then I got it lined up, and it was just more on the top and shaved on the sides. And I went from that to protective styles for 2 years. And I wore kind of exclusively braids, twists, faux locks, crochet, twist outs. I did all of that. And then I started my lock journey in July 2017. Now, I did not think I was going to go on a lock journey. It wasn't a long held, one day I'm gonna have locks. I will say though, and some of my friends who may be watching this, they do know that ever since I was 25 or something, when we talk about when we're old ladies and things like that, I always saw myself as an old lady with long silvery locks, underneath a tree chatting to children. That was my vision. So even though I did not think that I was gonna get locks maybe in 2017, I thought maybe it was longer down the road, I did envision myself with long silvery locks many years later, when I was in my 80s or something. So I did not intend to get locks, right? Well, that's not true. I did not, in 2017, like, it wasn't on my radar. And this is what happened, okay? So first, those of you that have listened to my episode of the podcast, if you haven't, check it out. I think it's episode 10. I actually came to Spain on a whim in April of 2017. So I moved in August of 2017, but I came before on a whim, just as like a kind of like a crazy European jaunt. We could talk about that later. And while I was over here, I had the crochet twist outs. So y'all know, like crochet, but then I like took out the little twist. So it was like a like big thing. Real cute. And kind of like this color too, kind of a little bit. And while I was in Spain, in Europe that time, I was here for about like a month and a half. I knew I was going to be moving to Spain in a couple months. So I was in Barcelona at the time, then I was in Sicily and other places. So I was looking for hair care. I was looking for black hair care shops. And so when I was in Barcelona during that time, in April to June 2017, I would go to like all the black hair care stores that I could find on Google. I was posting in different groups about it, like what salons you guys go to, what do you like, all these other things. I would get a lot of recommendations. There was, in Barcelona, there's a lot of like Dominicans, and so they'll do the blowouts and stuff like that. But I was like, I don't really want to do heat on my hair. It's not really my thing. And then they would be like, oh, well, there's this guy who does like braids. And I would like look at his IG, and I was just like, the braids just weren't hitting for me. You know what I mean? You gotta understand, like, I'm from Atlanta, like a chocolate city. So like natural hair and just black hair is just at a different level. And the crazy thing is like, you can go to different places around the world that are majority black or not or whatever, as I have, been on the continent, other places, other cities that have lots of black people. And like, really, like there's certain like chocolate cities in the US, like it's like nobody, it's like the standard, like the hair is just laid. And so you go abroad and I just be like, I see what you're trying to do, particularly with this guy who's doing braids in Barcelona. I see what you're trying to do, and I see how everybody's really hyped about it, but like I don't think it's not hitting for me. That was my opinion. I was just like, this doesn't look like great. It doesn't look, like whoever from around the way or even in a salon in Atlanta. So for me, it was just like, nah, I can't be like looking janky, but y'all think it's great. That's like a taste level, right? That's a taste thing. I think it's similar to like, I've heard a lot of the girls who get like sew-ins and wigs, and like depending on where you're coming from, the quality of either the install or even the wig or the hair is just not at that level. So people have had to really reevaluate how they move. And I'm not sure if there's a really great place in Spain or Barcelona, maybe Madrid. Well, Madrid has a really well-known salon that does black hair. I'm not sure how late it is. I'm sure it's nice, but I know Barcelona is lacking. So I say all that to say, like, I was on a mission. I was looking for different products and things like that. Let's talk about the price of products. This is also part of my decision. So I went around, I was looking for a salon. I couldn't find really a salon. So I was like, okay, this looks like I would be doing my hair, and I'm not like a super hair girl, like the girls who like do their hair on YouTube and change it and stuff like that. Like, I don't look forward to wash day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not that girl. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I just got braids in last week, I'm gonna take them out, I'm gonna do something else. Like, that's not me. If I got braids in, I'm gonna ride these forever. Not forever, but I'm gonna ride them for a while. So that's not me. So salon, okay, cool. I'm gonna have to figure something else out. I go to different shops, and some of the shops are really well stocked, but the import prices are crazy. For like some shea butter, for some blue magic grease, okay? For some stuff, like, I'm not even joking, the prices were like at least 2 times, sometimes 3 times the normal prices. And I was just like, no. this cannot be real life. And so I went to a lot of the stores, I looked them up, and I was just like, this is not gonna work. I looked on Amazon.es. Amazon.es in 2017, even now it's like stepped up a little bit. I wouldn't say in the black hair care department, but just in general it stepped up. I think the pandemic actually helped that. But Amazon.es in 2017, it felt like there was literally nothing on that website. Compared to the Amazon.com, I would be scrolling, I'd be like, they don't got nothing here. It's like going to a store and you just being like, there's nothing on the shelves. That's how it felt. I'd just be like, what? Why do people even go on to Amazon.es? Y'all don't got nothing in here, because I'm so used to like the abundance of a consumption in the United States. Like trying to find things on Amazon.es was just ridiculous. So I go on, Amazon.es. I try to see what's going on. I actually got a cool tip before Brexit. Everything ends up with global politics. That Amazon.uk would ship without customs and things like that into the US, and that might be a better kind of workaround for like hair products and things like that. Not even just Amazon.uk, but also other kind of like smaller online retailers based in the UK. That might be a better option. So I've definitely looked into that. At the time in 2017, I don't think there was a online black hair care store based in Spain at the time. I think now there is, but I don't think the prices, and I think it's run by a black woman, so we support, but I don't think the prices are, and I understand because it's import, but I don't think the prices are not competitive, okay? And I don't know if there's any local Spanish black hair care brands. Be great, but no. So I did all those things. Went to the salon, I went to the store. I was looking at the hair at the store. I actually talked to a black woman who was working at the store, and I was like looking at the hair. We were like kind of going back and forth, and I was like, y'all, they wanted, come close. For some crochet hair, they wanted, it was like, and I'm not joking, it was 30 euros a pack. And it was like synthetic. So I'm like, so all of those things, I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my hair. Like, I just really didn't know. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to bring all my products in from the States 100%. I gotta bring them all. But then I was just like, geez, like, I don't know if I wanna deal with it. I've shaved my head before, right? I just told y'all, I shaved it originally when I went natural, and then I kind of shaved it again a couple years after that. I got a faux hawk kind of thing, the high on top. And so I was like, okay, I gotta shave my head again. Whatever, I'll shave again. But then I was like, damn, but then I have to like either grow it out or have to find a barber. And I was like, that's kind of like the same issue, especially because at the time I knew that I wasn't actually gonna be in the city of Barcelona. I was going to actually be in La Rioja in northern Spain. And yeah, that was going to be a problem. So I was like, well, maybe I'll start locks, right? Let me give you some background. And hopefully my sister's not watching this. So my sister, shout out to her, love you. She actually started her lock journey, I think 2 years before I did, I think. And honestly, it came to a surprise to the family. I didn't know she was gonna do it. And she was like, I don't think she even announced it. She just like came over and she had them in twists. And we were like, okay, you have twists today. And she was like, no, I'm starting my lock journey. We were like, oh, okay. And if you've ever gone through a lock journey, one, it is meant to be not just a beauty journey, but also a spiritual one of humility, one of self-acceptance, and all those things. And that is exactly what my sister went through. Like, we were living in Atlanta. It's, again, a chocolate city. Beautiful black people everywhere, from all different shades, all different hair, all different everything. And my sister was going through her lock journey. And let me just tell you, there were times it just looked crazy. And me and my mom would be like, okay. And my sister's like, it's growing, it's budding, it's doing whatever. And we're just like, okay. But my sister's a G. She was like, whatever, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with it. And obviously, eventually, you know, not only did they mature, but now they're very long and very beautiful. My sister's locks are like actually like very gorgeous, very long and luxurious. So I had that experience with locks. So it wasn't actually on my radar to do it myself, because I saw my sister and I was just like, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know. And so when I'd come back to Atlanta to get like my visa stuff done in between my trip in April and moving in August, I made a decision to try it and start my lock journey. This was my thinking. I was like, one, let me see how it works, like if I'm gonna like it. And if I don't, I'm just gonna shave my head. That was my thing. I was like, if I don't like it, I'm just gonna shave my head, because I've done it before. It wasn't really that big of a deal. Once you shave your head once, it really becomes always an option. Kind of like living abroad. Like once you move abroad, you're like, I can move somewhere else. It's not that big of a deal. It's a hassle, but it's not, you're kind of over the mental barrier, right? So I actually dyed my hair, and I got my hair twisted, and I was just like, here I am. I'm starting my lock journey. And my sister was very supportive. My mom was actually a little bit like, okay, we'll see. And I moved to Spain. With these little twists. And that was a very interesting experience. Let's get into that. Because a lot of people are like, what do Spanish people or European people think about like your natural hair? Do they try to touch it or things like that? No, they don't try to touch me. The fuck, like not me. I think it's because y'all may not know this. I cast an energy in general that's kind of like, don't touch me, and don't, like, you know what I mean? I cast that kind of energy. So I've never had people try to like touch me, like touch my skin, touch my hair, anywhere in the world. Not in Southeast Asia, nowhere. So, and that's good, because I wouldn't want to catch a case, because don't touch me. That's a big no-no. So I come to Spain, and I have these twists, and no one's going to say anything. You know, I did feel insecure, because I did have like all this volume, maybe I'll post it in the stories. I had like all this like really cute hair, and then I just went like, bing, like little twists. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what it was. And I go to La Rioja, I start school, and like nobody says anything, which is cool. But my hair grows really fast, which is a blessing. But so my hair started growing out, and like the color starts growing out, and I didn't think about re-dyeing my hair while I was here. So my hair's growing out, and like it's long enough where I could pull it back in like a little nubby ponytail. Y'all know what I'm talking about, like a little nubby nub. And yeah, I just go to school. Nobody ever asked me about it or anything like that. And the thing is, like, there were like other Black people like in the program that I was in La Rioja. But I think everybody understands the struggle, so nobody was like giving me the side eye. I only mention that because I feel like I would have been more insecure about like starting my lock journey in Atlanta. Even though you have like all of the services, all of the hair, and like not even the hair, the products, and like the natural ones, and all the, like you have all the things there. But yeah, I think being in Spain actually was really good for me in my journey, because one, none of these white people know what it's supposed to look like. So no way, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're gonna be like, oh, are you going on a lock journey? Oh, I see you budding, or stick with it, or anything. Or like there was no commentary on my hair whatsoever. They were just like, okay, like whatever. And I think that was helpful for me, to be honest, because I think I was really quite insecure during that first kind of process. Eventually though, after the first couple months, I kind of just got over it. I was just like, it's gonna look crazy. My hair was growing out. I had like crazy, it wasn't even like roots. It was like half of it was black and half of it was brown. Like that's how it was. And so I did though actually go back to Barcelona and try to get my hair retwisted. I didn't try. I've gotten it retwisted twice in Barcelona. And I'm just gonna say it. I found a salon that was, I wouldn't say a loctician. I wouldn't say that. That did locks. Let me give you some background. In Spain, locks are called rastas, which I don't like. But I feel like the Spanish language is full of stuff like that where you're like, why do you just say that? Like, that's not appropriate. You know what I mean? Like here in Spain, like certain beans are called judías, which is Jewish. Like it means Jews, like Jewish people. You know what I'm saying? Like they have a lot of terms like that where I'll be like, why can't you say frijol? Like, why can't you just say things, right? You say email, why can't you say locks? You think like stuff like that. So anyway, that's setting the stage. So they call them rastas, and there are a certain amount of white people that lock their hair, or whatever that would be called. And so I found a salon ran by this like white French Rastafarian. I don't know. And I was like, I was following on IG for a minute, and I was just like, gosh, this feels strange. Just because I'm like a Caribbean woman, I was just like, I don't know about, you know what I mean? I don't know about this. But I went to his salon because I was really early on in my journey, and I like wanted to be like really perfect about it. Like I was like, oh, I want to get my hair retwisted. I want to mess it up and and I need to go see someone. One, because if I was in Atlanta, that's what I would do. I wouldn't retwist my hair at all. I would just go to a salon and have someone wash my hair and do it for me. So I go over there, and you know what? He was quite nice, very nice. We had a lot of talks about conspiracy theories, and that's fine. But I did feel like, I don't know. For me, I didn't really, like, I felt uneasy the entire time. I don't know. Also, because it'd be like all these, like, white people with the locks coming in and out, looking dirty. And I was just like, I don't know about this. For me, in my opinion. I was like, nah, fam. But he was nice, and I think I went to him one other time to get him retwisted, and then I was like, you know what, I can do this myself. I can learn. I could do a YouTube video. You know, I'm not a hair girl, but I can like figure it out, right? So I've had that kind of experience, and then I just decided to take it all on my own. Now I'll say this, like my hair did not lock or like become locks for, I feel like, a really long time. I feel like my hair didn't actually start like doing what it needed to do. Like I didn't feel like I really liked it until literally like December 2019, y'all. Like it was a long time. But because I feel like I live in Spain and I don't have you know, just an abundance of like fabulous black women or people like passing me by where I could like, one, drool over their beauty and hair, but also not and feel like insecure about it. I actually felt like fine. I was just kind of like whatever about it. I didn't stress out over it. I didn't feel like I needed to like, you know, retwist it so much, which I've talked to a lot of my friends who are also locked. Like a lot of people try to like retwist all the time, and they want it to be like super clean and show their scalp like all the time, and you know, they get bald spots and like all this other kind of stuff. They get like thin locks and stuff like that. I actually felt like being in Spain helped because I just didn't have like the pressure, and so it was kind of just like whatever. However, I would say like being in Barcelona, and I mean to a certain extent here in Valencia, like the water has been an issue because water is really like heavy metalled, that's not the right word, heavy mineral water. Has a lot of calcium in Barcelona, especially. Here in Valencia, the water is better, but in Barcelona, like the calcium is insane, and they're not gonna ever fix the old water pipes. They're just not. So I've had to obviously adapt with different products and also get a filter for my shower. And that's just part of life. That's part of it. But yeah, my hair did not, in my opinion, start looking like nice until like December 2019, which is interesting because I started, that's when I dyed my hair like this color in November 2019. And then I went on a family vacation with my sister, and we were in Panama, and she was just like, the secret to locks is salt water. And I was like, why didn't you tell me this before? And so we went swimming a lot, and so I don't know if it was just like, this is the mystery. I don't know if it's just the amount of time I've already been locked, that I dyed my hair, or the fact that I was swimming in the ocean, and it all came together. Just all came together. Like, that's how it did. And so now being locked for 5 years is cool. I think the issue is always like, one, hair dye for me, because I do dye my locks and my hair grows out super duper fast, which is a blessing that I keep on telling myself. But the thing is, it's like my hair be growing out so fast, and I try to like stretch it, but my hair is just disrespectful, you know, it just be like telling everybody like, this is not her real hair color, everyone, just let you know. So that's an issue. And then obviously maintaining it with different kind of products, but you can get Olaplex and all different types of shampoos and things like that, salon grade shampoos here, so that's not an issue. And I just have my friends bring me hair dye. Actually, I could buy my hair dye sometimes on Amazon, sometimes it's not in stock. So basically every time my friends come see me, I have someone buy me a hair dye and they bring it to me. And that's about it. Like, that's how I mostly maintain it in general. Now, that's my story. Let's get into some of the stories that the ladies on the podcast have talked about with their hair. Again, if you have any questions about hair, being abroad, or any just being abroad questions, you can go ahead and put in the question box or anything like that. Yeah, but let's talk about it. Okay, in a most recent podcast, episode, we had Kintia, who was in Dominican Republic, talk about one of the biggest things that she missed, because if you listen to that episode, her and her husband moved to Dominican Republic. Like, they're not even there for like a week, and he gets into a horrible motorcycle accident. He has to get moved to Miami. They're in Miami for like a year, where he has to learn how to walk. They go back to the Dominican Republic and live there, kind of in the outskirts, where there's kind of like water issues, all these types of things going on. They do eventually decide to leave and go to Taiwan, but one of the things that she missed the most about living in the Dominican Republic was, like, I think she said she got her hair like blown out or braided for like $4. And I'm like, that is stuff that you just can't beat, right? And that's something that if you, no matter what type of hair you have, natural, processed, whatever, when you're thinking about hair care abroad, you do need to think about services, typical prices, but also what type of services. Is it $4 if you're in like a salon? Are you $4 in somebody's house? Like, what is your level of comfort and things like that? And how are you going to maintain your like hair health and your beauty standards? Because even though I said starting my lock journey in Spain was kind of cool, because like nobody had any expectations and I didn't feel really insecure about it, I still think like you do need to feel your best. Like, you need to be in an environment that is going to support you to feel your best. And it doesn't need to necessarily align with what like local beauty standards are. Like clearly, I don't look like nobody here. I don't look like anyone here. I don't. So, you know, you have to make sure that whatever you're gonna do when you're abroad for your hair, you are obviously taking into account the health, the cost of maintenance. You know, is that part of you living a life well lived? Is that you don't got to do your hair and, you know, it's so affordable. You can have somebody come to your house every 2 weeks to, you know, braid it up or blow it out or something like that. That's cool. But that's the thing when I'm always like harping on about being specific about what a life well lived means to you. It's not like airy fairy. And those of you that have, you know, the Moving Abroad with Intention guide, you know it's not about like, oh, what is a life well lived? Oh, it's meditation. You know it's not about that. It's really about getting down to nitty gritty to what aspects of my life are important to me. And they don't have to be like highbrow or something. Like they don't have to be like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people think like, oh, beauty and whatever, that's like vain. But like, okay, it could be, or it's just part of my self-expression, right? So it's important for you to think about that. I've also had, you know, Deanna, my episode 2 guest, talk about when she was in Hong Kong. One, the fact that she thought that she'd be able to get a lot of her products via Amazon. And even though she could, it wasn't actually the same. And it would take a long time. And then until she really tapped into the Black Women Network in Hong Kong at the time, you know, she didn't know where to get her products. She had to like ship them over and things like that. And then also, Hong Kong's on a different level, or it used to be, because Hong Kong is in a different space now. But she actually had a young lady just come to her house and braid her hair and her 2 daughters' hair, and for relatively cheap. Everybody's head got, you know, braided up in Hong Kong. That's amazing. That's important. But I think that's important for you to think about. When you say, I want to move somewhere, or when you say, I want to live a life well lived, like, what does that actually look like to you? Does it look like getting your hair braided at any time that you want to? Does it look like having all the products that you're used to and you're accustomed to? Because remember, even outside of hair care, like getting the products that you want, like if you like certain things from like Trader Joe's or whatever, you may not be able to get that abroad. You know that, right? You do know that. So it's important for you to really think about what is important to you and what does a life well lived look like, right? Especially with your hair. Also, I think I had someone else written down. I mean, I've had guests in Ghana and Nigeria be able to maintain their hair beautifully and things like that. I think also, oh, I can't believe I forgot. One of my guests, I think she's episode 3, Valerie, who has her own extension line in Australia, where, you know, she's a Nigerian American woman from California. She moved to Australia to play professional basketball and was the MVP and champion. If you haven't heard her story, you have to listen to it, because I mean, you want to talk about trials and tribulations and like ending up on top. She's that girl. And then like not only like ending up on top, but also being so gracious and humble, very, very kind. But she really started her business, which is, you know, hair extension line, from a need. She wanted to be able to have ethically sourced hair extensions, and she wanted them to be in all different types of styles, because she would order these hair extensions, I think from China, and the quality wouldn't be there, but also it just wasn't what like was advertised. And the prices for the bundles, for the packs, were like extraordinary, like extraordinary. I think hers might have been even more than 30 euros a pack, something similar. Listen to that episode for sure. So she went to Bali, and I think she was living in Bali at the time with her husband, and she kind of went and found suppliers, some ethical suppliers who get the hair from some village women, and the hair actually falls out naturally, and they just have the women collect it. And that's how she sources her hair for her hair extensions. And her hair extensions are really nice because they're all different types. Like, I think she has like straight hair, she has like maybe full wigs, she has like curly, like natural ones. Yeah, really, really fascinating. So there are different options around the world, even Black-owned options abroad. So when we talk about hair care and we talk about, you know, what are you gonna do, there are many options. I just think like you have to be mindful and stuff like that. Hey Krishan, how are you, Krishan? How are you? What's going on with you? Tell me. Hey. We're here. We're talking about hair care abroad. I was telling everyone about my hair journey. I've been locked for 5 years, basically ever since I moved to Spain, and kind of the trials and tribulations, but also the freedom. There's a lot of freedom in it as well. And going abroad and kind of doing whatever you want to do. It's similar to, as you guys have probably heard me say, there's the wellness of living abroad really lives in this space of being outside of your cultural context and outside of the cultural and society of your current country. Like, that's where the wellness lies. You're not going to ever fully integrate because you're going to be foreigner. You can be respectful, but you're always going to be other. And you're not home. So in that space, you get to really adapt what you think is beautiful and beauty and what you want to do. Or at the very least, feel like you can be left alone to like figure it out, like how I felt, you know? I was going through my lock journey and I was just like, this does not look like locks for a long time. But I was in a space where I didn't have any pressure. I didn't have any societal pressure. Nobody else. I mean, there was nobody with like, you know, baddie locks or even faux locks around me. So I felt fine. You know what I mean? What did you say? I'm good. So glad to catch you live. Let's do a YouTube live together this month. Of course we can. Yes. Yeah. Email me or DM me. Let me know. Actually, look at my calendar. Yeah, let me know. Yes, we'll talk about whatever. Love it, love it, love it. But yeah, so the conversation today was about hair care abroad. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you do have a question about living abroad, let me know. I love to do these IG lives in chat. Maybe I'll go back onto YouTube lives again. I probably should, but you know, step by step. The beginning of the lock journey is hard and then they blossom. I had locks for years. Exactly. That's the thing. The beginning of it is really hard because what is it? Even though I saw my sister go through her lock journey and, you know, I was just like, this looks crazy for a long time. I was supportive and I was loving, but I was also like, okay, girl. And now she has beautiful locks. It's a hard journey, actually. And it is one that takes humility and also a lot of self-acceptance. That's the biggest thing, is like recognizing that, you know, real self-love, self-acceptance, especially as Black women of the West, where we have been kind of programmed not to like our hair, that our hair is somehow defective, deficient. It takes a lot of time, especially because you may think like, you know, like you may see my hair and be like, yeah, I want locks. And like, this is not what it's gonna look like when you first get it. It don't look like this. But it is, I think, a meaningful and amazing journey. And I felt like I had an advantage, but like, I think actually being in Spain was really helpful for me to not have like comparison. Obviously you still have Instagram, Okay, you still have IG, you still have YouTube, you still like drool over other people's locks and hair and things like that. But also, I wasn't really obsessed with it either. Like, I wasn't one of the people who like counted every single lock and then was like super obsessed. Like, I just wasn't. And I think that served me well mentally and emotionally. And also it allowed me to kind of come into like this new stage of myself and new stage of like hair and beauty in a different type of way. I don't feel super attached to it in a way. I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. Really like it. I think it's cute. I think it's cute. I like it. I never thought I would have like hair, like, I know. After I cut my hair the first time, when I went natural in 2010, is that right? No, 2010. I didn't think I was ever gonna have really long hair again. I had really long hair as a kid, pressed or even relaxed. I had really, really long hair. But after like I went natural, I never thought I would have, long hair. And now I do. And it's cute for now. Who knows? I might cut it. We'll see. Anyway, that is all. I want to also let you guys know that Moving Abroad with Intention course is coming back in August. What is Moving Abroad with Intention? Oh goodness. What is moving abroad without intention? Let's talk about that. It's crazy. That's what it is. So Moving Abroad with Intention course is a 5-week live course. This course is currently live. It's going to be live for the rest of this year. And then next year, it is not going to be a live course. Okay, so I'm just letting you know. I don't do one-on-ones anymore. So I don't do one-on-one kind of moving abroad consults at all. So if you want to chat with me specifically about your moving abroad journey, I encourage you to do the course this year because it's only going to be live this year. So it's a 5-week course and we talk about everything that you need to not only prepare yourself to go abroad in a meaningful way, but also so that you will stay abroad and be sustainable. Because that, my friends, is really important. And I know that the Pinterest pictures and the IG pictures are amazing. Y'all know it. I put them in the IG stories all the time. But living abroad is not like Instagram. I just feel like I have to say that. Living abroad is not like traveling abroad or being a tourist. Living abroad is a whole nother thing. It is creating a life. And so what I want to do is to always let you guys know that, one, you can create any kind of life that you want abroad, but I want it to be sustainable. And that's what the Moving Abroad with Intention course is all about. So we go from visioning to getting down to the brass tacks of how to actually get a job abroad, if that's what you want, money management abroad. And if you've listened to my financial wellness abroad episode, you know that this is really important. And perhaps some of the, people you've been following, particularly, it's usually the Facebook groups, y'all. I be seeing some that I'm like, they want you to go to jail. And I don't want you to go to jail. I like you, love you. I don't want you to go to jail. I don't want you to think like, I'm going to leave the United States and I'm never going to go back, so I'm not going to do that. Like, no. I want you to move from a space of, one, not escapism or romanticism, let alone fear or scarcity. Because let's be real, if you are moving from that space, why do you think that that is not going to reoccur wherever you are? Because wherever you go, you bring yourself. Let's just be honest. And for a lot of people, living abroad, they think it's a silver bullet to their life to fix whatever. And it's not. What it is it can create the space, physical distance away from toxicity, yes. It can also free up the resources for you to really cultivate a life well lived, but it does not just like absolve you from responsibility and accountability for your life. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And you will find yourself attracting the exact same cycles, whether it be financial instability, poor romantic relationships, what have you, abroad in a different currency and with people who speak a different language or with different accents. it will happen. It happens all the time. Like, it's literally, I'm not saying something like to scare you or that's an outlier. It happens all the time because people don't move around with intention. And the intention has to be, one, having a clear vision of a life well lived and understanding the steps that you need to do to not only create that and sustain that. And a lot of the work happens before you go abroad, truly. And you also have to recognize that it's going to be a lot of work that happens on the ground abroad. But the thing is that it's good work. And I know that if you're from a Western country, particularly the United States, you don't want to hear that you have to work. Like, you're like, girl, I've been worked to death. And I get it, because in the United States, work is like exploitation. It is survival. It's not enough. It is so much stuff. But this is a different type of work. This is cultivation. This is cultivation of your life. Truly. It is quite amazing when I think about how I wanted to live abroad and even what I thought living abroad was, and being abroad and what I've done with this opportunity. It is extraordinary. When I think about my businesses, and the opportunities that I've had and the experiences that I've had, I would not have had these experiences. Not only had I not moved abroad, but if I hadn't moved abroad with the intention to really allow myself to grow and expand. I wanted to live abroad because it was a long-held belief and dream of mine. But also I was tired, I was burnt out. I learned that living abroad didn't solve that. I had to work on it. But also I wanted to be able to be on my own timeline for life. I'm Southern, so there's a particular timeline for things that happen in the United States that I don't have to adhere to here. But also I got to play and explore and decide, and I had a lot of time, and I still do have a lot of time to decide what is it that I want and to go after it, and also hold myself accountable for my own happiness. Because even though I've lived in wine country, which is great, I've lived in Barcelona, which is cool, and now I live in Valencia, which is a very dope city, actually. Everyone's like, stop telling people about it, which I agree, because a lot of people are moving here now. But it's like such a great city, actually, really great. I forgot what I was gonna say. Anyway, even though I've lived to all these places, I still have to create my life. I have to build community. I have to be out here and go after the things that I want. Now it's different. I don't feel like it's a grind or hustle at all, like in the United States, which I think is kind of part of the competitive advantage being an American abroad. If you know how to work it right, and if you have some kind of decorum. Don't just be like an aggressive American out here in these streets. Be like, I'm American, I can do things. Yeah, you can, but also you might just turn off people and not have any friends. But generally, ambition and the ability to dream and the ability to think yeah, I can do it. Generally, as Americans, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do it. That goes far. It goes far abroad, but only if you're intentional, truly. When I talk about intention, I'm not talking about lighting a candle. I do this. I actually do this in the morning. But I'm talking about taking the time in your busy, crazy world where you're desensitized and traumatized. I know. But taking the time to deeply contemplate and consider and cast a vision of your life that is not for IG, not for your friends or your, external family or whatever, but for you. That is where the intention is. The intention isn't I just want to get out of crazy United States. I get it. But the intention has to be more, because you deserve more. You deserve a fully fleshed out life. A life of vibrancy, a life well lived, however you decide that's going to look like. But you've got to be clear about it, because how many of us have wanted to go, or how many of us have pursued accolades and awards and things because everyone said it was so great and that if we had it, it'd be, you know, our life would be dope. And then we get it, nothing happens, right? No magic dust comes down. We don't feel fulfilled. We don't feel great, even though people might be clapping and applauding. It just doesn't sit well. And you feel empty. And I don't want you to do that when you go abroad, because the relief of being outside of a traumatizing, toxic society like the United States, I mean, it is good. The relief is good. But there's so much more than just being outside of the danger. There's a whole life to live. There's a whole life. And think about it, like how we have been conditioned for the bare minimum, where you just want relief. And I'm not belittling the relief. I'm not belittling it. But like you are just like, I just want relief. I just don't want there to be insanity. You know, I don't want there to be just danger in every place lurking. The bar is hell. Okay? And I want you to have the relief. And I do think that through the relief, right, being outside of your cultural context, your vision will probably refine even more. Like things will start happening and you'll be like, okay, I'm even more clear. But I want you to cast a vision, truly. That's not for Instagram. That's not for nobody. I tell you guys this all the time. There's people who don't really know me. They don't really know me. That question, they're like, do you still live in Spain? Because I don't ever see you post about living in Spain. Although I'm a content creator, like that's not my field. Okay. Also, that's another IG live I'm gonna do. Just because you move abroad doesn't mean you need to become a content creator. That's a whole TED Talk. That's another thing. But like, I don't post because also why y'all up in my business? You know what I mean? Like, why y'all want to know like where I go every day and do? Not y'all, but like people on my personal IG. Weird. Obviously I'm very suspicious, but like I don't live my life in Spain. I didn't decide to move to Spain, move abroad for IG or for like, clearly not for likes, because I don't have to post like, you know what I mean? All the cool things that I do. And maybe I will start doing some things, maybe later grams, because again, weird. But I live my life. And people are like, oh, but I don't know how fabulous it. You know why? Because it's for me. And my friends that come visit me. And like, you know, my friends that are my close friends. That I put them on my close friends IG. But like, I want you to live a truly wonderful life. And perhaps a life that you're so busy living that you don't post it on IG. You know what I mean? I mean, if you want to post on IG, there's no really shame in it at all. But I want you to live a deeply sumptuous life. Yeah, sumptuous, right? Yeah. I'm also writing a book. It's actually called Flourish, A Black Woman's Guide to Living Well Abroad. Be on the lookout for it this fall. I'm silly. But that's the thing. It's a sumptuous life. You know, people ask me all the time, like, oh God, what's it like living in Spain? And isn't it always horrible, whatever? I don't discount anybody's opinion or experience in Spain because that's on them. And I validate everyone's experience. Spain has a lot of issues. It doesn't have the same issues as the United States. Let's be clear. It has a lot of issues where I'm like, you guys can just tweak this. Also read a book. But I live a sumptuous life. Let me just be clear, okay? I don't post about it, but I live a sumptuous life here in Spain. I'm an entrepreneur, and I have a lot of goals for the next year, 2 years. So I am kind of in like a different type of mode right now. I can have a little bit more sumptuousness. I could, but I'm working a lot more right now. But let me be clear. I live a sumptuous life. Okay, what does that mean? I I am only beholden to me, one, and I can go and do whatever I want. Not only that, just because I'm an adult, but like I move with a freedom and with an ease that I don't know if would be available to me in the United States. I just don't. I don't. I move with the air of a woman that is really unburdened. Spanish people are Spanish people, but also I don't really have a lot of issues with Spanish people. I mean, definitely about them. They don't have like sidewalk etiquette. That's big. But I don't have any issues. They stare a lot, but it's never unfriendly. It's mostly like, I feel like they think they know me. And I'm like, I promise you don't know me. And I promise you've never seen nobody that looks like me. Stop looking at me. But honestly, most of the time, the little old ladies will come up and they'll just be like, I love your hair. They don't try to touch it. So there you go. You know what I mean? I live a sumptuous life. I live a life where I'm really exploring all of my interests, and I've been able to do a lot of things that I don't know if I would have ever even have dreamt of doing. How about that? Like, I don't even know if I would have even had the space to contemplate it, let alone go after it. You know, a lot of things that aren't necessarily tied directly to like ambition, like naked ambition. You know what I mean? Like getting to the next level. I've just done things where I'm just like, okay, yeah, had that experience, interesting. And I have a lot of freedom and things like that. One curvy chick, I'm trying to acclimate to life in Portugal, but I can't wait to grow, expand, and flourish. Yeah, how long have you been in Portugal? This is the thing. This is why you have to move abroad with intention, right? Because people assume that you're just gonna move abroad and things are just gonna like fairy dust will come down and everything will be great. There is a period that you have to acclimate. There's a period that, I mean, I've talked about this on a couple other people's podcasts, but there's a period, and sometimes it's short, sometimes it's long, sometimes it's ongoing, of not only you get homesick, you're kind of isolated, especially if you don't speak the language. And that kind of takes a little hit on your self-esteem, at least it did for me. Even though I minored in Spanish. And I was like, I speak Spanish. I came here and I was like, I don't speak Spanish. Not only that though, but there is a period of mourning. And a lot of people like to talk about the grief of living abroad. The grief is obviously, like the most obvious things are, okay, you didn't get to go to the 4th of July barbecue, or, you know, my friends have all these cute little kids and they don't really know Auntie Christine. You know what I mean? Because they were all born like in the past 5 years. Like that's that grief. But the grief that a lot of people don't talk about is the grief of recognizing that you chose a different life. That's something that people don't talk about. And maybe I should do an IG live about that. I think I did an IG live about it, but I could do another one. And that's part of the acclimation process, right? Like recognizing that I'm choosing this life. And because I chose this life, I am in fact kind of rejecting another life. You know what I mean? Like I decided to take the path less traveled, and you still kind of mourn the more traveled path. And it's a period of acclimation that takes a while, I think, because there's levels to it. And even 5 years on, I think I still have grief a little bit about it. It's not like I want to go back to the States. No. It's not that I even really talk about it with my therapist. It's just a recognition that there's some grief that you kind of live with. It's a living with a decision. And maybe being abroad makes me more aware of that kind of life decision. Because when you do make a choice or you don't make a choice, I mean, when you make a decision and not make a decision, it's still you're making choices, right? There's consequences to it. And there's that. Okay. I first left end of April, had to go back in May for my visa, so I've been back for over a month now. Okay. All right. So you're freshly in there. I never want to go back to the States. Okay. Look. Girl. I feel you. Clearly. What's funny though, I'll share this with you, is that when I went abroad, I knew that for me, I was like, I'm gonna go abroad for 2 years because it was a long held dream, and then I'll decide how I feel about it, right? I think my mom, my sister were like, you're not coming back, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll move somewhere else, I don't know. But ever since I moved abroad, you know, all of the shenanigans, right, from 2017. So this is when Trump was in, you know, when he was still there. I guess he's still there. Okay. Every single thing that happens, and it feels like every day there's like headline craziness news in the United States. Personally, I've taken it very personally. It feels like the U.S. is giving me the finger. Like, I feel like with every little thing that happens, I'm like, oh, y'all don't really want me to come back. I'm like, wow, y'all really feel that way? You guys don't really want me to come back? Like, every single thing that happens, I'm just like, wow, y'all really don't want me to come back. And there's a grief in that too. Wow, that's a grief too. Being like, wow, like my country is, especially being outside of it, you just see the potential. It could be great, but also what people have settled for, and they think that that's the standard. And I'm like, girl, there are emerging economies that are on it with, like, you know, social safety nets and care of citizens. So everything the politicians tell us in the United States about things being possible, not being possible, are lies. I feel like, let me just be real. Like, no, healthcare has to cost, no. My health insurance, I have private health insurance. It is 44 euros a month. It's excellent. And I go see the doctor whenever I feel like, and about everything. I honestly don't utilize it enough. There's so many different things, you know what I mean? Just so many things. But it's a conflicting feeling. Because part of me, I mean, my heritage is, my father's Trinidadian, so my grandparents immigrated, and he immigrated in the 70s. So part of it is like newly immigrants to it. And then on my mom's side are Black Americans from many generations. And I understand people's feelings. They feel like, no, this is my country, I deserve, and I understand everyone's point of view. But I also understand that systems are in place to keep it as it is, and like I'm not fighting the system. I'm not fighting the system. I'm gonna get my peace. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take care of me. That's what I'm doing. When I got here, the first time I felt at peace, like I was always meant to be here. Oh, that's so lovely. That's what we're talking about. You know, exploring living abroad as a pathway to wellness. It's a holistic thing, right? It's not just, you know, I mean, fresh food and affordable fresh food, even with inflation. Okay? Because, yes, love it. You know, I'm a vegan, so like, people always ask me about, how's being vegan in Spain? Easy? You talking about, they grow everything here in Spain. Just about everything. Even mangoes and bananas in the Canary Islands. Like, it's great. It's great here. The U.S. is ghetto. The U.S. is great marketing. That's what it is. It is great marketing because I still meet people here in Europe and Spain that they're like, yeah, I want to go to New York. I want to move to the U.S. because the U.S. is where everything happens. They're like, I'm a little bit afraid of the shootings, but like that doesn't happen everywhere. I'm just like, honey, your journey is different from my journey. You know what I mean? If you feel like you need to go to the States, I get it. You know, on a lot of industries, the U.S. is major players. It's where things happen. You know, but, you know, I remember I was in Malaga, and this, I guess she was like a hotel receptionist. Yeah, and she like, you know, I was chatting her up. She was like, how would I find a job in New York? And I was like, girl, I don't know. I don't live in New York. There's also a thing, like, the Americans just know about the job, like, job searches around the country. I'm like, no, I don't know. I told her, I was like, are you sure you want to go? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, well, maybe you go to Miami. Because they speak Spanglish. So, you know, there's a lot of Latinos and things like that. People still want to go. I don't know. The U.S. is a third world country. Girl, the U.S. is a place where, again, a lot of good marketing, a lot of propaganda, a lot of people believe it too. Because there's so many people who are like, isn't it so dangerous? Or it's so racist in Spain? And I should have an IG live with that, or YouTube live, actually, because there's been a couple of, like, there's a Travel Noir article, and then there was like this recent TikTok that went viral about like this traveler, and she said Barcelona, she had the worst experience in Barcelona, and no black person should ever go to Barcelona. And actually, one of my friends in Barcelona, she's been living there longer than I was living there. She's still there. Sent it to me, and we had a whole like voice note chat about it, where we were like, there's a lot of reasons not to particularly like Barcelona, but the ones illustrated in her TED Talk were very interesting for us Black women who lived in Barcelona. I don't know about travelers, but also Barcelona is a city that's catered to tourists. That's a different conversation. Maybe that's an IG live for another time. What else? I have no desire to be on the US hamster wheel or grind. That's a big one too. I ain't interested in climbing nobody's corporate nothing, but bless those that do. Let's talk about that. Maybe I'll go live again this week, because I get a lot of questions about having a business abroad. I'm an entrepreneur, and like how, one, I actually set that up, right? There's a lot of moving parts. It's not hard, but there's a lot of moving parts to consider, and like how I do it, because I've never been on the corporate grind or hamster wheel. I've always been a rogue entrepreneur type. I know some people want to go abroad and work corporate. That's fine. I mean, it's a different work culture. And I've had a couple of episodes talking about how you have to be mindful about work culture when you go abroad. A lot of people are like, oh, I live abroad, I'm going to work in Paris. Listen to Jesse's episode, working in advertising in Paris. Listen to that one. Oh, or Annabelle's in Japan. Listen to that. Okay. Like, just because you're abroad doesn't mean like you don't have corporate BS or a different type of work culture that you may not be accustomed to, that being the odd person out might be a severe disadvantage. You don't know how to work the politics. That's a whole thing. My plan is to move out of the US once I finish my undergraduate. Sure, yeah. Tell me, where are you going to school? What are you studying? And where do you plan on, like, what are you going to do for work? And where do you want to move to, like, out abroad? My friend shared that with me recently. Are you back in Barcelona? Oh, hey, Albany. Hey, girl. I'm in Valencia. Tell me not to tell you, I moved to Valencia, girl. I moved to Valencia, like, last year. I'm in Spain, but I'm in Valencia. So, but I'll be in Barcelona, actually, probably soon, because that's where my esthetician is, and I need to go get a facial. Real important things happening. Let's see. Question. Okay, how do I do this? Oh, I don't know how to do it. Okay. This? Okay. How long did it take you to acclimate when you first moved abroad? This is a good question, because I talk about this in particular a lot. So I was super burnt out. I had graduated from law school in 2013. I had started my business. I was living in Miami. I moved back to Atlanta. I was on a grind, just grinding it out, you know, getting a lot of traction, but like grinding it out. I had my own music festival. I was doing a lot, and I didn't know I was burnt out, like in the medical sense, or even have the language of it. The opportunity to move abroad kind of presented itself, or I kind of pursued it, and I just was like, whatever. I'm gonna move to Spain on the sabbatical. I'm gonna teach English for 9 months. I'm gonna live in La Rioja. I'd been there because I did the Camino de Santiago years before, and I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. And it was tough for me to acclimate to Spain, and especially the lifestyle of La Rioja, because I was coming from this like work, grind. And so the peace and the stillness freaked me out. So I go from being like a crazy entrepreneur, stressed, moving, doing, thinking, whatever all the time, to working 3 days a week for 12 hours, living in sleepy Logroño, La Rioja, drinking wine. I mean, that's the biggest hobby. It was like, let's just drink wine. Let's go to vineyards. Let's go to bodega. Let's go whatever. So that actual process wasn't like smooth for me. And I know some people might be like, what are you talking about, girl? Drinking good wine, and it's super affordable. When you're in the region, it just pours from taps. It's great. Yeah, a lot of people find that hard to believe that I wasn't relaxed and like my life wasn't magically better. But the thing is that like that kind of societal programming has to be intentionally undone. I had to not only give myself permission, but I also had to fill my time in a different way. It's kind of interesting. Like I needed to give myself permission to take siesta. Like for the longest time, I think I said this on I did an interview recently. I didn't take siestas in Spain. Now, in Barcelona, they don't really do siestas. Like the whole city's not gonna shut down for siestas. Like in Madrid, that's not gonna happen. Here in Valencia though, like a lot of stores do shut down. Like not like chain stores and grocery stores, but like accounting, lawyers, bakeries, small, like people go home and they have siesta. But I actually didn't partake in siesta. And they had siesta in La Rioja. I felt weird. I was like, I gotta sleep in the middle of the day. I don't know. It just felt weird, like I didn't have time or I didn't have things to do. And so for me, I think part of that process to acclimate was to surrender what I felt I needed to do. And being in a culture that one really does stress the importance of self-care, like wellness, in a really interesting way, right? Because a lot of people be like, wellness is coming late to Spain. Okay, because they weren't like drinking wheatgrass shots or whatever. But truly, I think Spanish people really understand wellness because of their lifestyle. One, prioritizing family and friends. They're very social people. They're gonna get up out the house. They will get up out the house and they will go and talk loudly somewhere. But also rest in all of its facets. Like they're just not pressed like that. Even if you don't sleep during siesta, they're taking that time off. They take, vacation. Like in August, this country is gonna be shut down besides like the major tourist places where people will be like working. People are gonna be gone and they're like, yeah, I'm on vacation. And when they say don't email me, like don't, because if you email them, they're not responding to you while they're at their vacation home. And you might as well email them the first or second week of September, because they're not even probably go back into your email that you sent them in August. They're just gonna delete it, okay? That's what I'm talking about. Like that, I had to acclimate. I had to surrender to that kind of lifestyle. And I had to really reiterate why I had moved abroad. Like what was my purpose? Because I had decided to move abroad, but I was still trying to live, or I was still holding myself up to this standard, this societal standard, and this lifestyle that I was living in Atlanta. Even though I said I didn't want it. I was still like judging myself. I was like, well, my friends are doing this and da-da-da-da. And I was just like, girl, you decided to move to La Rioja. What made you think you're gonna have the same life? Like, you're not gonna have the same life. That's the whole point. So acclimating took time. It took time, obviously, like language. It took time to just get accustomed to like festivals. That's another thing. Y'all, I was such a hater. Let me just be honest. I was a hater. I'd be like, why there's so many festivals? Y'all don't ever be working. I wasn't working either. So, but I'd be like, why are there so many freaking festivals? And I think I was irritated because I was like, what's the purpose? I want to know the history. Tell me what's happening. And a lot of people in La Rioja would just be like, they'll be like, I don't know, this is just a festival, this is what we do. And I'd be like, you don't know. I was expecting them to give me like the history and da-da-da-da. Like, and then I'm like, if people ask me in Atlanta, like, why do we don't have that many festivals and things like that. But why do we do things? Sometimes I know the history, sometimes it's like, this is what we do. You know what I mean? But I was such a hater because I'd just be like, I need to know the purpose. Why are we celebrating? Why? Just to celebrate. Like, relax, girl, like, relax. Just celebrate. Celebrate and put it on your calendar so that you know to go to the grocery store before the festival. Because there's a festival, everything's gonna be closed, can't go to the grocery store. Like, that's it. And relax. Participate, go on the street, see what's going on, see if you can figure it out, see if you can ask somebody. And if not, go in your house, rest, because you don't gotta work. Like, a lot of it has to do with like surrender. And that's just something that I don't think a lot of people talk about when they say, move abroad and it's gonna be, they're just like, it's cheaper, better, da da da. And they don't ever say like, what does cheap mean? They don't ever say what better means. A lot of the benefits that you're looking for from living abroad requires you to bump up against and have that kind of friction of who you are, because you got to take yourself abroad and against this society and this culture that you say that you want, like the values. There's gonna be that resistance. You're gonna be like, why do y'all do it like that? I hate that. Like, I don't know, like, where's my cinnamon toast crunch or something like that. And in that resistance, this is why intention is so important. In that resistance, you take that deep breath and you pause. You're gonna feel the resistance. You're gonna feel the angst. So don't feel bad if you do, okay? But take that pause and remember your intention, and then be curious instead of being against it. Instead of being a hater like me, be like, why you guys got all these festivals? Just be like, I don't understand what we're celebrating, but I'm curious to know what more about it, or, you know, I'm curious to just figure out what I'm gonna do for the rest of the day since I don't have to do anything, right? It's a switch of the mind, and that kind of switch, that's what you need to be able to not only live abroad well, but to do it long term. It's a big surrender process. That's how you acclimate to it, honestly. What else do we have? Girl, why are you putting my business on? I'll tell you later. I'm studying interactive digital media. Okay, cool. Okay. Nice, studying interactive and digital media. So what do you want to do with that? What does that even mean? Interactive and digital media, like VR, like augmented reality? I don't know. Everything is a celebration. Oh my God, yes. I was talking about things being closed on Sundays. Girl, trying to put my business on Front Street. Yes, so yeah, things are closed on Sunday. Things are closed. Look, I actually moved to Valencia in the middle of August, which anybody that has any sense, especially in Southern Europe, you would never move to a country in Southern Europe in August. Why? Because everybody's on vacation. Where are you gonna live? Where are you gonna live? And not only was it in the middle of August, so everything's closed, and everybody who is renting out an apartment, even agencies, they're like, see you later. Like, we're on vacation and will not respond to you. Last year when I moved, it was, they had a mini Fallas, and Fallas is, a really well-known, internationally well-known festival here that's usually in March. It's like a spring kind of thing, but because of the pandemic, they hadn't had it, and they had all these fireworks, stockpiled, and they're like, we're gonna have it this year. And so they had a mini one right after, so they had it, I came in the middle of August, and then right at the end of August, early September, they had Fallas, and like everything was just closed. And I was just like, why? I'm like, I have business to attend to. And they're like, I don't care. That's what you have to acclimate to, right? You gotta understand it. I mean, people will, even if it's not during vacation season, it's not unusual. And I saw this even in Barcelona. You go to a shop, you try to look at the Google Maps. One, at least before the pandemic, the Google Maps, those like the hours and stuff like that, were so hit and miss because people would not update it at all. Like, at all. I think they're better now because of the pandemic. But like before, I'd be like, it says it's supposed to be open. And that would not, it'd be like permanently closed, a new place in that space. It's crazy. But you know, you go to a shop and those have like a piece of like notebook paper that just says like closed for rest. You'd be like, what? Like, but I need, they just put like, they weren't feeling it that day. Closed for rest. That's part of acclimating, right? In the US, like everything's about that dollar. So we don't understand like, why would you be closed when you can make money? And da-da-da, don't you want my money? Da-da-da. Like I definitely thought it and said it. definitely had my ugly moments where I was like, why don't y'all don't want this money? And they were like, they're not chasing every euro because they don't have to, right? Because if they don't work, they won't die, like in the United States. So that's part of the acclimation process. That's part of it, for sure. Basically, I'm learning to make interactive material like web design, user interface, multimedia, and creating digital content. Oh, okay, that's cool. Cool. Awesome. Those are all the skills that everybody wants, for sure. So I'm sure you're going to be very successful. Do you know where you want to move abroad? And do you think you're going to work abroad? Or what kind of things do you want to do? Girl, I'll text you. Okay. But yeah, that's all about being to acclimate yourself to it. Living abroad is dope. Let me not front. Living abroad is dope. It is amazing if you do it intentionally. There's plenty of people that are on all the forums, and all the Black in fill in the blank, or Americans in fill in the blank, or whoever in fill in the blank place, that whine and cry and hate it, and you're just like, why are you abroad? And yeah, there's definitely things that happen. Politics. Y'all see what's happening in the UK right now. Maybe you don't. Crazy. Even here in Spain, crazy stuff happening down at Melilla and Ceuta. There's always something going on. But in general, if you move abroad with intention, it's lit. I'm not gonna lie. It is great. It is great. You do have to be intentional. You do have to cultivate that lifestyle. You're not going to move abroad and just have friends, unless you make friends before you go abroad, which is what I did, actually. I had a whole network set up, so I just moved to Spain and I knew people, and that was great. But it does take work. But when you think about it, wherever you go, if you stay in the States or wherever you're from, you move to a different part of the country or anything, any stage of your life takes work. You have to cultivate it. So really it's about, where do you want your efforts to go? What seeds do you want to plant? Or more importantly, what is the harvest that you actually want to reap? Not just survive, not just get by, not just do things that everyone else wants you to do, but what is the harvest that you actually want to reap? What is going to be juicy and delicious for you? What is that going to be? And living abroad, in my opinion, gives you the opportunity to cultivate that and to feast upon a life that has been very well cultivated and has reaped sumptuous, juicy fruits. If you do it intentionally. Not everybody has an experience. There's plenty of people who are miserable abroad. I feel like those are a lot of women who are trailing spouses. That's on my face. That's a whole nother IG live. I feel like a lot of those people who maybe, don't have an identity, don't have the opportunity to work or cultivate a life, purpose. That's why intention is so important. And I actually have an episode with a trailing spouse, and she actually talks about, and she's from Lesotho and met her husband in South Africa, and they had traveled and worked, where he worked all on the continent of Africa, then in Lebanon, then they went to the US, and she had and that was so interesting because obviously she's from Lesotho, she's not Black American. Her whole perception of the US, fascinating. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's Patricia. I think it's episode 9 or thereabouts. But also she talks about how she had to cultivate a life well lived for herself, because you think, a traveling spouse is a cushy gig, and it can be, okay? These are corporate moves, it can be. But when it comes down to it, after you have kind of all of your necessities taken care of and things like that, it's still, you in the mirror. It's you and your life. What is the purpose that you're going to give it? What's the meaning you're going to give it? What is it that you want to do if no one else is telling you this is what you should aspire to? Should be your values. What are you going to do when you don't have to? Or when when you have an opportunity to make that decision for yourself. So if you listen to that episode, do that. Identity, very, very nice. I'm thinking about doing things remotely, either freelance or contract. As for country, I want to go somewhere that values nature and gives me room to build my spiritual essence. No big cities. Yeah, I could feel that for sure. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, values nature and gives me room to build my spiritual essence. It's so important. That's what I'm talking about. Moving, when you move abroad with intention, right? You have that kind of intention, you have that kind of focus. You're not trying to fit yourself into a city or a place, which is what I think a lot of people do. They do the reverse, which is what we talk about in Moving Abroad with Intention course. A lot of people are like, I love Paris, or everybody's moving to Tulum, or like Cancun or something, or wherever, or Mexico City. I mean, these are nice places. Or everybody's moving to Lisbon, or I gotta go to Auckland, or whatever. And then they try to fit themselves into the situation, into the city, into the environment and community. And I don't think that's the way to go. I think it's important for you to be very clear about what is it that you desire and require, and not in vague generalities, which is what I know people do because they are not used to having the time for deep contemplation, because it does take a deep contemplation. This is not something that takes like one afternoon of like, oh, let me just write down what I want. A lot of people ask me like, how do you know what your values are? How do you align your values with the city? And I'm like, you have to really deeply consider the state of your life. That's what it takes. You have to deeply consider the state of your life. What is working? What is not working? What is not working? And why is it not working? And really deeply consider of the things that are not working. Those are hints and clues as to what you should not settle for. Okay? And you should be firm, because it is your life. And you can have just about anything. Okay? So I think you should be firm with it. But also the things that are working for you, really explore as to why is it working, and allow that start to be the foundation for your vision casting. So then you're saying to yourself, what is it that I want? How do I see myself in this next chapter of my life? Do I want a Ford Expedition and a house in the suburbs because that's what I've been conditioned and programmed to want? And if you want that, that's okay. Like, that's fine. I learned how to drive on a Ford Expedition. Like, okay, that's not me having a value judgment on whatever you want. My thing is that you need to make sure, just like, your therapist might tell you, the voices in your head that are self-critical, that hold you back, are they really your voices, or are they someone else's voices? So the things that you want in your life, the things that you've been aspiring to, the way you think life should go, is that really your vision, or is it someone else's vision for you, right? Is it what you have been absorbing around that you just think is a given? And if you go abroad, you recognize nothing is a given. not nothing is a given, but like a lot of things that are said and are stated as fact and as truth really aren't, right? For example, United States, there's still this discussion. You can't have universal health care. Not everybody can afford health. Healthcare has to be tied to employment. And there's plenty of places around the world that say healthcare is a human right. It's in our Constitution. And everybody has access to it. Now, the quality of healthcare, this is why it's important to be specific, because a lot of people just be like, I want good healthcare that's cheap. And I'm like, y'all better be specific to you. What does good healthcare mean to you? What are your current health needs and in the future needs, okay? Or the needs of your family. Be specific, right? And just because a country has, nationalized healthcare also doesn't mean that you'll have access to it as a foreigner. I think people don't understand. I don't think a lot of people catch that. Obviously, in an emergency situation, a lot of places are not going to turn you away. And perhaps in certain places outside of COVID, even paying out of pocket and things like that isn't gonna it's not gonna cripple you, right? in a lot of places, you're not getting a $4,000 bill for taking an ambulance, because that's insane, right? There's that. But it's important for you to examine what is it that you want. And that takes deep contemplation. That takes journaling. That takes you being really ruthlessly honest with yourself about your life, the things that you have tolerated, the things that you have expected for yourself, the things that you have not expected for yourself and why, the things that you have not allowed yourself to dream or have. You have to be really ruthlessly honest, because if you are, then you understand that you are, co-creating this kind of experience for yourself, and you won't have that kind of misguided, romanticized notion that just moving abroad is going to solve all your problems. Because a lot of people in these forums that talk about living abroad are literally the weapons formed against them, and it's insane. That's why I be commenting. I used to comment in them like a year and a half ago. Like when I launched the podcast, I used to be up in there. Now they come up on Facebook, or I see, comments on, other people's things. And usually the content provider, the content creator, usually they're straight. They're not really misleading people. But in the comments, people just be exposing themselves. I'm like, you are literally the weapon formed against you. And I don't know why you think moving abroad is going to somehow mitigate that, because it ain't. It ain't. And you see it all the time. You really do. Look, you may not be able to see it all the time. I see it a lot. And also, let's be honest, a lot of people don't want to announce their L's. Who does? I don't necessarily want to, but I'm going to be honest with you. That's one of the biggest ways that people self-sabotage, is because they're not intentional. They don't take the time to really know themselves, because they don't feel like they need to. They're moving from a place of fear and scarcity. They're moving from a place of lack. They're moving from a place where they don't feel like they can deeply contemplate. They're really coming from a place of lack of self-trust, really, right? Because you can consume all the content. You can listen to all the episodes of Flourish and Foreign. I don't think you should. But when it comes down to it, you know what you want. You know what you desire. You know that the life that you want, at least in this next chapter. And of course, it's ever evolving. You should give yourself flexibility for it to evolve. But let's be real. Like, a lot of people are afraid to even say to themselves out loud what they really want out of their life. And a lot of people don't truly know what their true heart's desires are, because they have been so socially programmed. For example, it was hard for me to take a siesta. You're like, how's it hard for you to take a siesta? Well, it was. It was hard for me to take a siesta because of societal conditioning. So, you have to make sure you're not the weapon formed against you, because you can go abroad and, shit still sucks. Except you're abroad. Maybe without community, right? Like, there's that. Exactly, because that Obamacare is expensive unless you have pre-existing conditions. Lord, I don't even know. Girl. All I know, which is interesting, I've learned more about American healthcare system, and I actually feel like I understand it more clearly being abroad. That's weird, right? Like, just talking to other, foreigners, and even like Spanish people who've been abroad, like, they've broken it down to me as to exactly why it's so expensive in the United States, and then seeing it in Spain, like understanding like, oh, countries can negotiate with these companies and be like, you can't even sell in our market unless it's this price. I was like, what? So why don't they do that in the US? Because they don't care about you. They don't care about us. They don't care about it. It's a free market, right? Countries are like, no, everyone needs to be well. Like, we want health. And they're like, no. I've learned a lot by being outside the United States, 100%. I don't mind announcing my L's, but I feel that everyone expects you to succeed, and when you fail, they might be put off by your failures. That is true. Janelle, tell me, where are you currently? Where are you from, and where are you living? Because I agree. I think I think that's the thing. I try to come at this platform, and I try to really talk about living abroad as a pathway to wellness, specifically to not romanticize it, specifically not to, I don't want to sell y'all a dream, because like life is amazing. Like my life is sumptuous. I said that before earlier. I was like, I live a sumptuous life in Spain. I do. And I call it sumptuous because it is. It's sumptuous. It's nice. But let's be clear. I've had my L's. I'm working through an L right now, actually. But that doesn't mean, like, L's happen because you're an adult and you're living your life. Because I've moved abroad intentionally, but also because I know what I want my life to be, I take accountability for my L's, and I move on, and I take it as a lesson, and I prosper. But the thing is like, you're gonna move abroad and you're gonna have L's. You are. You're not gonna do things right. You're gonna have mistakes. Things are gonna happen. Maybe you get divorced. Maybe you have whatever, a friendship breakup, whatever. Like, things happen. You might move abroad and you have like this huge big party. I had this, actually. I didn't actually move abroad. I don't know if y'all know. If you listen to the episode, you would know. I first thought I was moving abroad in 2014. I got a job offer in Malaysia, sight unseen, and I was like, bet, I'm going to Malaysia. I'm going through all the stuff, submitting stuff for the paperwork to get the visa. The company reneged on the offer. I had moved my stuff out of my cute apartment in Inman Park, Atlanta. I was in the suburbs of Atlanta. Anyway, and I had already went on a farewell tour. I went to Miami, because I used to live in Miami, to go say bye to all my friends because I was moving to Malaysia. And then I'm not. That's an L. I had to take that L. It was so much egg on my face. It was rolling down my face. I was just like, oh my God. It was an L. I didn't move abroad. I didn't. And everybody knew that I was gonna, and I didn't. But you know what I did instead? I walked the Camino de Santiago, actually, instead. And that changed my life, and that kind of made me end up here in Spain. You know, like, shit happens. You know, I've moved 3 times. Well, 2 times. 3 times? 3 times. I've moved in La Rioja. I've lived in Barcelona. Now I live in Valencia. You know, I guess you could say living in Barcelona might have been an L. A lot of things happen in Barcelona. That's not for this book coming up. That's maybe for a memoir. Because, girl, some things happen in Barcelona. But yet, we thrive. And I live in Valencia now. You know what I mean? Like, you keep it moving. You keep it moving. It's not a perfect kind of experience at all. Yes, the insurance company is in it for the money, not the care of the patient. Yo, I learned about there's a whole industry of middlemen of healthcare in the healthcare system in the United States, which I didn't know. I really didn't. I'll be completely honest. I didn't recognize how ignorant I was of like healthcare systems until I moved abroad. Really, like, very interesting. A lot of people have forgotten how to dream. That's true, and that's real truth. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. What are you gonna do when you're if you're not living paycheck to paycheck, which you can do at any salary level, okay? Because of how the United States is set up, consumerism, things like that. But also, it's just like you work or you die, like for real. And it's like that's gonna prevent you from dreaming. And have not tapped into that childlike dream state of who and what they want to be when they grow up. That's a big thing too. Play. That should be another IG live. Let me write that down. Play. Yeah. Okay. When I say I have a sumptuous life, I think I'm also talking about I have periods of time that don't have this one anxiety attached to it, or the sense of urgency. And so what I feel like, I guess is, I don't know, lollygagging. I don't know, is that a Southern thing? Y'all know what I mean. Like this kind of, I move in a much slower pace than I've ever moved in my life. Like, and part of me still is like, you gotta go and do this. And I'm like, no. Like, one, I work for myself. So like, if I want to go to Pilates at 10 a.m., at 2 p.m., 3 p.m., I could go to Pilates whenever I want. But also, like, I've also set up a system for me in which I can decide not a lot of work is getting done today. And I don't. And I tell people this all the time. I have a system in my life where, like, I could be out. Like, I could go to Menorca next week or tomorrow. Maybe not, because it's kind of high season now, so I don't know if I can find even a place to stay. But I'm close enough where I could actually take the ferry or fly in and do that and play and just be like, I just want to go and do something. And not even have to be like luxurious as going to Menorca. Just gallivanting and having conversation and trying new things. I was painting in the park the other weekend, actually. And that was nice. And I'm not an artist. I'm not going to show you my painting, even though I did hang it up in my bedroom. I did not do that. But that's definitely part of it. Janelle, you're from the USA, living in New York. I moved to France next month. Okay, where in France are you moving to? Yeah, that's the thing, you know. We've been sold a lot of lies. And some of it has been intentional and malicious, and some of it has been just about survival. You know, depending on where you're from, you know, the history of the African diaspora, a large part, no matter where you're kind of located, has been about survival. So some of it has just been about assimilation and survival and integration and survival. And that gets passed on and on and on. And what I want now is that if you want to, I think you should leverage your expertise, your position, whatever, to live abroad and do it on your own terms and take the time to play and not have it figured out, because that's also part of the acclimation process. Is like, you're not going to have it figured out. You got to start into the process, and you have to decide what you want. That's what it also is, actually. It's an overwhelming feeling when you recognize that what you've been told is not necessarily the truth, and that there's an abundance of options for you. And then you got to decide what you want, which I think at first seems counterintuitive, because you're like, if I had all these options, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Would you? Because your inclination to do this and this is based upon your societal programming and the options that are available to you now. When you're outside of it, what are you going to want? What are you going to want and desire when all of your necessities and all those kind of things are already like handled? Whatever the stressors are not stressors. How are you going to move? How are you going to dream? What is actually going to open up to you? You're not going to know until you're outside that kind of space. Like, what is actually possible for you? What you want to be curious about? What you want to explore? Who you really are? Because who you are in survival mode, or who you are when you feel very constrained by a societal narrative, expectations, feeling like you need to assimilate, integrate into whatever societal context, right? Your cultural context, your hometown, your friends and family. Like, who you are outside of that, who knows who you're going to be until you're actually outside of it. I feel like I have learned so much about myself. There's parts of me that I'm just going to be. Like, I'm a Capricorn. I'm just going to be a Capricorn. I was Capricorn when I was 3 years old with a mean mug. I'm a Capricorn now. Like, those types of things. But, like, I feel how I relate to myself is very different. I feel like what I think is possible for myself is very different. I mean, y'all, I started a podcast that has been extremely successful, which is fascinating on a whole other level. When I say I had no audio experience, I didn't even consider myself a creative 2 years ago. Like, I had this space to not only create something, not because I was living in Spain, it's also a pandemic, but like, I had the space to explore something, pursue something, try something. And now it has opened up so many different opportunities and experiences for me. And I just don't know if I was in the United States, even locked down, like if a proper lockdown, if y'all actually ever were locked down, couldn't go nowhere. If I would have even dreamed of that or possibly, I mean, outside like of the subject matter, like even would have been like, yeah, you know, I want to do this, or even pursued it with like the vigor that I pursued it. I just don't know. And that makes me sad because being abroad has allowed me to call myself a creative in a way that I definitely have never even thought I would have. Because I went to law school, you know, business strategist. I've been like, I'm this. And it's like being abroad has allowed me to encompass multitudes. You know what I'm saying? And not let them, and not feel like my worth is tied to it or like overly identified. I think it's also by, you know, meeting a lot of people who are in like service jobs that are looked down upon in the United States. Like you meet a waiter and you're like, oh, what are you gonna really do? And here in Spain, in a lot of parts of Europe, that is not only a profession, right? Obviously, but it's a profession that is sustainable and pays a living wage, and people are like, yeah, I like to do it because I'm used to it. My dad had a bar, or, you know, I like it. I like the hours, and I do whatever I'm going to do. Like there's this space. It's this space that has allowed me to reconsider how I relate to myself and how I show up, for sure. And so they accept the programming and stay in their comfort zones. Yeah. Let's talk about it. I mean, comfort zones, that's the thing, right? Like, moving abroad is a hassle. I mean, unless you are independently wealthy, it's a hassle. Like, it takes time and effort and getting settled. If you don't have relocation service, which you can pay for, you don't have to have a corporate sponsorship to do that. A lot of it's a hassle, and it takes you outside of your comfort zone, though. That's the thing. And a lot of beautiful things can happen when you allow yourself to take L's, make mistakes, not know, ask for help, ask for support, not have to do everything on your own. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get out your comfort zone, because then you start recognizing how much life is there to live and how much of it has not just been denied to you perhaps by societal systems, but also how much of it we've denied ourselves by like being like, I can't because I gotta work, or I can't because for me, like, I'm not creative. I don't know how to draw. I still don't know how to draw. When people ask me to draw, like, you know, if you go to like a conference or something, they're like, let's do an icebreaker, let's draw something. My go-to picture is a tree with a sun in the corner. Y'all know what I'm talking about. With the rays of sunlight. That's about it. Maybe I'll take a drawing class this year. I don't know, maybe next year. But I still consider myself a creative now. It's a whole different type of way of relating. But if I wasn't outside my comfort zone, I don't know if I would have ever changed that kind of thought, to be honest. Yes, I'm still in that childlike dream state, and I'm excited about it, because you got to. As you should be. It's a big deal. Yeah, ladies. Yes, I love this. The comfort zone is uncomfortable for me. I don't know how most people can live like that, because they don't know any better, right? When you know better, you do better, because it's kind of hard not to. It's kind of hard to be exposed to the truth and be like, okay, go back. Like when people ask me, especially during the pandemic, they're like, oh, so you're gonna come back to the States? I was like, why would I do that? When I don't have a place to live. I do have a place to live. I have plenty of friends and family. But I was like, I don't got my own apartment in the States. But also, I know that, what was happening in Spain, even though the pandemic did hit Spain initially very hard, I was like, they're taking it seriously. The U.S., not so much. Also, if I do get sick here, I'm not going to have an exorbitant bill, you know. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not. When you're exposed to the truth, it's kind of hard to go back. Not kind of. It's extremely difficult. I mean, consider the latest, you know, things that have happened in the United States. I would move back to a country that is apparently going to have forced births. What? Here in Spain, people like Catholic Spain, they just passed legislation where I think, don't quote me, I'm pretty sure, 16-year-olds can get an abortion without parental consent or permission or whatever. Yeah. So, like, what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. Comfort zone is uncomfortable for me. Yep. Once you know better, you gotta do better. I have to tell myself, get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's easier said than done. That is the big thing. You're gonna be uncomfortable a lot. And then for me, because I say this, but I still sometimes I'm like, but why? I just want to feel cozy. And I will say, living abroad for 5 years, I've become comfortable being uncomfortable. I've become comfortable with the unknown. And things take much longer than I think it should. I have. That's just part of it. That's part of it. It's just being comfortable with being uncomfortable. But there's so many amazing benefits to it. I mean, your life can change. Like for me, what was a big catalyst, and I think what has actually helped me living here is that before I moved to Spain, I did the Camino de Santiago, which is a pilgrimage across Spain. And so I walked from the French Pyrenees to the Atlantic coast of Spain. And I would not have considered myself outdoorsy whatsoever. And I did not prepare for that thing at all. And I would not recommend that. I think you should prepare and train. But the thing is like, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You're basically staying in like hostels throughout the entire trip, the entire pilgrimage. And the hostels can be like, you know, anywhere from like modern and cool and nice to like things that like would be like a 1950s orphanage. You're just like, oh no, oh no. Encountering really mean nuns. And I'm not Catholic, and I don't really have a lot of exposure to Catholicism, so I didn't know that nuns were mean. And then I told people, they're like, yeah, that's what nuns. I was like, okay. Being comfortable, being uncomfortable, you know, interfacing with different faiths and things like that. But that experience, you know, being tired and sweaty and walking for, you know, 15 miles a day at least, you know, you learn a lot about yourself. And I recognize that I can do it. I can do most things. I may be sweaty and tired and uncomfortable, but I can do it. I can be uncomfortable. And I'm so proud of myself for sticking to these situations, because there's always been such a huge payoff, honestly. Honestly. Lyon, France, to study French for 1 year, and then I'll see what happens after that. Ooh, nice. I love that for you. I'm so excited. But you tap into your creativity, which is something I definitely need to do, but I'll get there. Yeah, you'll definitely get there. I think that's another thing, right? Living abroad also helps to reframe what we even consider a creative or an intellectual, an artist, because people are living these lives that are different than how maybe we've framed it if you're American, like in the US. Like we're like, if you're an artist, then you have to do this. Like people don't have that kind of image. Like I think the best kind of like analogy or analogous kind of situation would be like how people in the United States feel about wine. Where it's like very like, oh, it's bougie, or it's this, or like people, I'm a wino. And like in Europe, like here in Spain, no, it's not fancy. It's actually very much like of the earth. Like it's an earthy kind of thing. It's about being more connected. You know what I mean? Like it's like a hearty, down home, like, you know how people think of like farmers in the US, like, yeah, we're down. It's like similar vibes where people are like, this is of the earth, we respect it. You know, it's not like a fancy thing. Of course, you're gonna see fancy wine bars in some cities, but like, it's just a different type of relating to this social experience, but also this agricultural product. You know what I mean? And it also, for me, reframed that whole thing. Like, wine, its context, how I enjoy it, how I source it, where do I go? Like, I always have a wine guy in every city. And I like going to wine guys because I like to learn about the history of a region, which you can learn a lot through the wine, politics. There's a lot of stuff you can learn. So for me, it reframed that. And I think that's the thing, even with creativity, you go abroad and you realize that how we have framed creativity or beauty or all these other things are just not universally held. It's just not. And I think it gives you a lot of freedom to breathe and to interact with creativity or wine or whatever in a way that actually suits you and makes sense. It's not, exclusionary. You know what I mean? So, okay. On my list, specifically south of France. Okay. And she's moved to Oreias, Portugal. Okay. I love it. This is a third world country. I said it 20 years ago and people thought I was crazy. Wine is cheaper than water in France. Janelle, how about this? I tell people this all the time. When I first moved to La Rioja, right, a very well-known wine region in Spain, but not the only one, and a lot of Spanish people will correct you. They're like, we have more regions than just La Rioja. Okay, yes, you do. This is very famous. But I would go out and I'd be like, okay, I want to meet up with like people, I want to make friends. You get the menu and, a glass of wine, like a clarete, right, is like 80 centimos. A joven is like €1.20. A reserva is maybe €1.75, €2. A grand reserva, depending on where you are, €2.50, €3 a glass, okay? Water, a small little thing of water, maybe, €2, maybe even more, depending on where you are, and if it's still water or if it's like sparkling water. And then you have your café con leche, which is like, €1.20 perhaps. So for me, when I first moved to Spain, especially La Rioja, I would just be like, one, I wasn't a coffee drinker. So I was like, I started drinking coffee because I was like, it's cheaper than this freaking water. And then the tea would be like, it would be like this box tea that they got from like Mercadona, like Kroger. And they wanted to be like $2.50 for some lukewarm water with some teas from Mercadona. So I started drinking coffee, and I was like, I'm actually caffeine sensitive, so I was like, I can't drink this. I just drink wine all the time, everywhere, and have pretty much stuck to that in general. So, and my friends would laugh, and then they came to visit me, and they're like, oh, I think we're just gonna have a glass of wine. I'm like, I know. It is that. Going through my awakening, I see things so much different in many ways. Even before my awakening, I questioned everything. That's the thing. I think you should continue being curious. Continue questioning the things that you've been taught. Recognize, though, that there is definitely going to be a period of grief. And it's a cycle, to be honest. I don't think people talk about it. I don't know why. I think people are too busy selling inspo. If y'all listen to podcasts, I'm not about the inspo. I'm really about, one, capturing accurate stories, but also being curious about how living abroad can be a pathway to wellness. And the wellness comes from sometimes trial and tribulation. Sometimes it comes from a shedding of an identity, an allowing of an identity, a surrendering to an experience truly. You know what I mean? Like it is a messy process, but don't you want to be in the mix? Like, don't you want to get your hands dirty for the cultivation of your life? If anything, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I think you would want to. That's what I think. All right. When you question, you're considered offbeat or a problem. Well, that's the thing too. Is like you have to know that not everybody's gonna get it. Like you said, Janelle. You said you've seen it in 20 years or 20 years ago. Anyone who is a lover and not a scholar, but someone who's interested in history, this is what's happening in the United States. This is the decadence period, right? This is the decadent period of the United States. It's super clockable. Like, it's not really, it's very obvious. So some people want to be in denial. They don't think that the United States could go into some great decline, which is very interesting because history tells us that's not true. But it is what it is. And you got to keep on moving and doing what's best for you and let people do what's best for them if they know what's best for them. Who knows? I've always enjoyed working alone and hated working with teams or being in a customer service. Now, in this last week, I feel like I want to be around people. See? There you go. There you go. Like, things kind of change. Things change all the time. All right. If you guys have any final questions, put them in the comments or in the question box. This talk started off talking about hair. So if you come in late, you didn't hear me talk about hair abroad, watch the replay. I talk about my experience with hair and beauty abroad. Sorry. And also I mentioned some of my guests that have talked about hair abroad because, hey, like, it's important. Like, why wouldn't it be? Especially as Black women, I think it's been, for me as a Black woman, the journey of, like, pursuing my locks and living abroad has been really interesting. So if you want to hear about that, catch the replay. And also, if you are interested in attending or participating in the next cohort of Moving Abroad with Intention, which is my 5-week live course. So it is 5 weeks. I have pre-recorded videos, and then I have once a week live chats with everyone where you can talk about everything about moving abroad. I will warn you, okay? This course is not like fluffy. It is, at the end of it, you're meant to actually have like a binder of materials, okay? There's a lot of homework. There's a lot of homework, okay? You know why? Because I want you to be clear, and I want you to be sustainable, and I want you to have a nice life. And I'm hoping that the course will help at least lay down a foundation for you to how to manage like money, all these different types of things when you go abroad, and you can just kind of expand upon it. But it's a real deal course. Yeah, it's not about inspo at all. So I'm just gonna let you know. I think it's good for people who are, who are in 2 years or maybe several years out, or who are thinking about going abroad or going abroad imminently, because it may expose some things that you haven't thought about. Also, you have a cool community, and you get to talk to me, maybe if that's interesting to you. Also, for all of my budding entrepreneurs, you guys may know I'm a business strategist. I have my business strategy business, and I work with my clients who have established businesses and organizations. But I also have my Build a Business Abroad group coaching program, which is for kind of like budding entrepreneurs, maybe people who don't even have ideas, or people who have like a side hustle, but they don't really understand how to scale it. But then also adding in some of the complexity of running a business abroad, whether it be your target market is abroad or it's not in your current location. Like, my target market is in Spain. My clients still come from Spain. Like, how do you manage that, Christine? I tell you, all in Build a Business Abroad. All those types of things, currency exchange, just tax, and all these fun things, but also how to really develop it. And not only develop a business, but develop a business that actually leverages your experience and your skills. Because look, there's 5 million ways to make money in the online space, 100%. But a lot of people aren't successful because they don't know what they're doing. There's that. And also, not being an entrepreneur is not for everyone also. But if you feel like it's for you and you want to be successful And success means in business that you make money in your business. And not only just you bring in revenue, but you have profit and sustainable. That's my definition. Like, if you don't do that, then you have an expensive hobby. That's just my vibe on it. So if you're interested in building a business abroad, making it sustainable, you're gonna want to tune in, because I'm gonna launch the next cohort in August. It's gonna be the last cohort of the year, because it's usually with the quarter. We're starting late, so it's gonna be for 3 months. Yeah, so if you've been thinking about starting your business or need help, things like that, I highly suggest you to join my newsletter. So when I start talking about it, which I'll probably start sending an email this week actually, you'll know. You'll also need to, like, the sales page. You can learn everything about it, and then I'll start doing some IG lives specifically about building business abroad, because I actually have some articles coming out. Y'all, the things that I've seen, especially this year, not everyone is a VA. And if you do want to be a VA, I'm going to actually teach you how to actually be freaking successful, because baby, I have working with my clients and sourcing vendors and VAs and different people for them, talking with my colleagues, even, I was interviewing early this year. I could put on a master class, and I've never been a VA, but I'm pretty sure I could put on a master class onto how to actually have a successful VA business. Actually, I'm very confident in that. I got thoughts, but I have an article coming out. Not just about VAs, but anyone who has like a side hustle, and you're like, I'm like, you only have like 1 or 2 clients, and it's very sporadic, it's not sustainable. Like, I have a whole thing for you. And also about hiring and firing. I have those articles coming out. So I have it for you. If you're interested in starting a business, I got it. I got it for you, okay? That's all coming up. And one last thing, I have locks, and there are a few places around Portugal I'm going to check out, locticians specifically. Yeah, one curvy chick, check out this replay, because I actually talk about locticians in my experience in Spain. I think Portugal's better. Honestly, because I feel like, Portugal has a lot more black people. And when I first went to Portugal, I was just in the airport, and I was like, what are all these black people? I love it here. I was like, I love it here. So you probably have a better time. Here in Spain, there are black people. There's Afro-Spanish, okay, yes. But loctician, in Madrid, there's a lot of young women who are on their hustle, British. They sometimes fly in, they do hair, and they say they could do locks, they do braids, do whatever. They do sew-ins. And I, as an entrepreneur, get it, ladies. I don't know like the quality of their work, but fly in and make, several hundreds of euros is smart. There's also ladies who come in, I think sometimes they're auxiliaries or college students, and they do the same hustle. The same thing like in college, girls doing hair. Love it for them. But like a consistent loctician or something like that, I actually don't know. Maybe, I would probably think in maybe Madrid. Barcelona, I don't think so. Unless something has changed, perhaps. Valencia, I haven't even asked. Actually, I had this black girl and black guy here in Valencia, and I think they're Valenciano, because they just started speaking to me in Spanish very rapidly, and I was just like, wait, what? But no, she was asking me about my hair and where I had gotten it done, and I was like, girl, I did this. What are you talking about? I did this. Don't look up too close, but it's good, So I don't think they actually have a loctician, because she thought, she thought this was faux locks. It was not faux locks. And I was like, no, girl, this is my hair. And yeah, and then she asked me if I did hair. I was like, girl, no. I wish I had the patience or even want, because I feel like I would make a killing, but I do not want to be in nobody's hair. I barely want to be in my own, so no. Not going to happen. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you want to hear my thoughts on hair in black hair here in Spain or abroad, check out the replay. If you have any questions, if you're watching this on replay, feel free to put it in the comments. You can even slide in my DMs. Sometimes I'm slow to get into my DMs though, so there's that. But I also, if you have questions, put them in the question box when I put the question box in the stories. Or else I'm just gonna talk about whatever I wanna talk about on IG Live, okay? All right, remember everyone, it is not about moving abroad. And it certainly is not about just being abroad. It is about thriving abroad. Yes, yes, being sustainable abroad. All right, so go abroad and cultivate a life well lived. I love all of y'all. I want everybody to win. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.